And welcome back, everyone, to another RLT Pivot podcast. My name is Tracy, and I am once again joined with my amazing co-host, Mr. Dan Jansen. How are you, sir?
Tracy, I am doing just okay today. Just okay. Health-wise, good. Market's good. Still just okay. Unfortunately, all the listeners at the Pivot podcast, we do have some news coming up. This will be Tracy Ball's last episode, at least temporarily. We'll see. We'll talk in the future. As the one of the and probably the best host of the Real Life Trading Pivot podcast. Tracy, what's happening, Tracy? Why are you leaving me like this, Tracy?
Oh, Dan, I'm just burnt out. I need to get some big projects done, and I need some time to get those done, and I need to focus on some other things. And as much as it pains me to leave, you and I have been doing this for almost 2 years. And of course, you and I do this voluntary, right? This is all our free time that we're using, and it takes a lot of our time, our effort, and our attention. And I'd love to keep giving, but like I said, I do have some big projects that I need to step away from for a while and get to. Plus, I think it would be good for our listeners and for you to get a fresh voice and someone else that can come in and give a new perspective. You mentioned in an episode earlier that we all have something to teach. We all have something to learn from everybody. And I think that the person that's coming on, taking my spot, is going to be a great addition. I think you guys are going to have some awesome chemistry.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anybody could take your spot, Tracy, but it will definitely be a good for the listeners. I think it's always good to have a different voice, a different opinion, something else. And we talk about growth a lot, personal growth, individual growth in the markets. So when things come up in somebody's life and there's new projects, there's something, the next stage, it's always encouraged to take the opportunities to work on other outside projects. And the same thing, we would encourage every listener to do the same. If there's something that you need to get done, don't delay. Just do it. There's always a million excuses why things don't get done, right? That's easy. But now obviously, so for the Pivot podcast, sad day. Obviously, new beginnings will start next week, and at the end of the show, we will announce the person that will be coming in and sharing their opinions for the next foreseeable future with the Pivot podcast. Tracy, since this is your last episode, what are some of the things that you have found to be the most beneficial, either for you, the listeners, something that maybe you didn't expect from day one of us kind of coming up with the idea of talking about, hey, let's put this idea forward?
I think, honestly, I think the fact that we put so much effort into this, that it keeps us accountable and keeps us growing, you and I, just to prepare and make sure that we have content and growing individually, that I wasn't really expecting. I thought that this was going to be more of us just sharing our knowledge and kind of what it took for us to get from that new stage to more of an intermediate trader to more of an advanced trader, etc. But I found that through teaching, which is really what we're doing, we're teaching, we're having conversations, and we're learning, and it's forcing us to grow, both you and I. And I appreciate that. That's probably one of the biggest gifts that this has had, doing this for us, and I think for our listeners, because as we grow as individuals, we are able to add more and help more and provide some better insight and some better conversation, et cetera, to our listeners. So it benefits everybody. And like I said, I didn't expect that. I also didn't expect it to go for this long. I thought that we would run out of content after our first year and it would be it, and that would be it. And I actually didn't even know how well it would take. I didn't know if our listeners would like it or if they wouldn't like it. And sure enough, here we are. Like I said, almost 2 years later, second season and running strong.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah.
100%. I mean, I've never personally, for me, done a podcast before, so the whole experience was new for me. And same thing. And I think we discussed this when we first started. I think we had the intention of how many people out in the market that are traders or trying to get into the markets. How many of them just have no idea what the market is? How
Mm,
many people are either beginning or have been trading for a little bit that struggle, that are not finding profitability? And us, I know for me personally, I wish we had something back. And I don't think podcasts were a day when I started, but I don't think they were a thing. But if there was a podcast that could really touch on a lot of those topics, and just in a worst case scenario for somebody struggling to be like, you know what, it's not just me. I'm not the problem. There's things I can continue to work for, continue to clear obstacle courses, continue to clear my mind, continue to really learn and develop. What this is a skill, right? And you're
hmm
you're working on building that skill out so that you could really start to accomplish everything that you pretty much had as a goal, and targets, and free up more time and all of that to be true. But I will say, whether it be from the guest or most of all, just going back and forth with you, just really getting to know you, understanding the different take, and being able to talk every single week to a trader who's successful, has been doing it, and just even seeing the similarities and the differences of the conceptual stuff, the
hmm
trading strategies themselves, what to look for. And I will tell you, my trading personally has been better because of it, right?
Yeah, I
So
agree.
I mean, now, sorry Pivot Podcast listeners, but I'm honestly just doing this for myself at this point. I'm just being selfish. This is I'm getting I'm getting huge benefits. But yeah, I think a lot of that's true. With the Pivot Podcast, I'm kind of going in the direction and doing this for 2 years. Um, would you say that? Well, I guess what would be some of the things that maybe you've taken out of the Pivot Podcast from maybe some of the guests that we've had, or just the discussions in regards to the trading world?
Oh gosh, it's hard to even identify all of it because there's so much that I didn't know going into this. I mean, the crypto stuff, the option stuff, all of that has been huge because it's not an area that I specialize in. It's not an area that I focus on either. Um, so all of the guests that we had on the show have all added value to my life and to my knowledge, as I'm sure they've done to you as well. But I think really is same. I mean, you said it really well in what you just said, and I have learned from you just as much as you've learned from me. And I think, like I said, it's really hard to pinpoint anything because every single episode there's an aha moment for me. There's a little bit of nugget or golden nugget that I can take from it that I didn't think of before. And sometimes it's even my own thought process that gets clarified just by being able to talk to you about it. And that is that's a gift. It's a wonderful gift. So I don't quite I don't think that there's any specific thing that I can pinpoint because like I said there's just so many over the last couple of years that have been phenomenal. They've just been phenomenal. So I I'm going to miss it. Let's just put it that way. I'm going to miss it completely. But I'm glad that I had the opportunity to do it. Right. I also love some of the comments that we've had from our guests or from our listeners. The comments when I hear that they listen to our show, it got them into trading or it's helped them. That has been so rewarding and I will take that for the rest of my life as a success. Even if it was just one individual that we helped, that was successful for me. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, how about you? I'm just curious because what would be some of the, I guess, memorable moments for you in this show?
Man, 2 years to pin down to a half-hour episode, and we've already eaten some of that time up, so it's going to be very tough to narrow this down. Um, I think for me, a lot of it is expect the unexpected, right?
Mm.
I think a lot of it is kind of what we said before. We didn't know what the Pivot Podcast was going to become.
Hmm.
Right? We didn't know if we had 1 or 2 episodes, and we're like, oh, remember when we did that fun thing? That was cool. And now you're sitting here 2 years later, and we've gone through we've gone through building out trading plans. We've gone through we've gotten to actually bring on, which I thought was phenomenal. We brought on some newer traders, some struggling traders, some people that um, would be listening to the show, and we get to have that one-on-one actual personality. Because right now, as we record the show, like, and again, we don't every action has a reaction, and I'm standing here in the recording spot with a green screen behind me by myself in a room, right? And you don't really think or really understand, like, for me, all I can do is just be honest, and if there's a struggle, I'll get into it, because that was my journey.
Hmm.
And to when you start talking to other traders who are struggling, and they're pulling up their trading plans, they're seeing, like, oh, these are the type of setups, and to me, that was the light that clicked for me. I go, shoot, I had that same exact problem. Like, I know where you, I know exactly where you are. I could pinpoint the road. You just make a right. I did this one already. I did this one already. And not only that, but just also hearing, again, where people are at different stages of journeys. You forget, right? You forget. I don't know. I think humans have short term memories. You remember the situation, but you forget the emotions sometimes that are behind it, right? You
Hmm.
forget the struggles that get people to where they are now. And just being able to talk to people in different scenarios of their trading career, for me, that helps bring back and remind me. And it also, um, like I said, it keeps me accountable, because I could literally go, yeah, no, this is how I would do it. And I'm like, do I still do it this way? Am I still, did I steer off course?
Hmm.
Should I get back to go more basic on my setups? Should I Yeah, you know what, we're probably in a bear market. Is this the time I should probably be changing my strategy? My Should I be flipping to a different strategy? And it
Hmm.
just, that interaction, I think, with a lot of the guests on the show, for me, is huge. And then we've had a lot of very successful people on the show, and I would say, once we have when we have some of the successful traders, or just people that have been doing it for a long time, the interesting to me the thing to me is a lot of times what they say, but for you, it's the questions that you ask as well, because some of the questions that you ask drive the conversation into a different direction than I think I would personally have taken it,
Hmm.
right? And just to see the professionalism as how you do it, the the manner in which you do it, um, it for me, it teaches me, like, how to really, or show me a different way to really be able to bring out the points, the questions that would really most help traders,
Hmm.
right? That maybe directions that I wouldn't have taken. So, uh, for
Wonderful.
for me, learned tremendous amount.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I would like to actually throw some questions out to the audience right now. And I would like to know, anyone that's listening right now, if you've been listening to the show, I would love for you to throw in the comments below some of your feedback of what have been some of the favorite points that we have tackled, or some of the favorite things that we've done on the Pivot podcast. And then I'd also love to know what you'd like to see us do differently. So if there's anything that you'd like added to the show, or different directions that you'd like to see it taken, or different things introduced, please throw it into the comments. Um, we had asked this, I guess, well, we didn't ask it. We actually got a comment from one of our listeners last year, and they suggested, having somebody on the show. And one of my favorite recording sessions was actually with Mike, when we coached him for 2 hours and then broke it into 4 episodes. That was one of my favorite episodes, and I'd like to hear from the rest of the audience to see, what else you guys would like to see done on the show, because I think that would be, this is for you. That's why we do it, right? We do it for you guys, to help you get better and to add value to your trading journey. So tell us what you want. Tell us what you need. Reach out to us. Send an email to Dan at Dan at reallifetrading.com, and he'd be more than happy to respond to you. I'd say send it to me, but hey, I'm not going to be here anymore. So just the way it is. But
Yeah.
how
Well,
do
yeah.
you want to?
Send me the email. A good point. Send me the emails of questions that you guys have, or topics that you might want to cover, things like that, as we go forward, as we continue to grow the Pivot Podcast. But also send Tracy at Real Life Trading an email to just flood that inbox, show her some love for the amount of time and dedication that she put in. So
Yeah.
make sure you guys take care of that as well.
Yeah.
I think Tracy, it's that time where we should introduce the next host, which, by the way, he has his work cut out for him. I mean,
I
I
don't
love
think
the
he
next
does.
host. I love the next host. I don't know how he's going to do it, but
I think it's his accent that's going to get it.
he does
he's
have. We're now
already
giving
got
clues. Yeah, he does have an accent. So we do have. And we had to keep this international too. I think maybe that was the strategy subconsciously.
maybe.
We not on
Yeah.
purpose, but we
Yeah.
had to go from Canada to over there in the UK. So we got Dean Bradshaw, which many of you guys know. He actually runs up or heads up the Real Life Trading UK division. Outstanding guy. I know he's going to be listening to this, Tracy. So I need your honest opinion. How do you think he's going to do? How do you think he's going to handle the Pivot Podcast?
I could not be happier that he's replacing me. Couldn't be happier. I love the guy. So
Yep.
I just think he's awesome. He's been on the show a couple of times, and he's one of my favorite guests as well. But I think he has a lot of value to add. And not only that, you and I, we're more versed in the stocks and even options and crypto and futures, and he brings a whole other element because he's a forex trader, and that is something that neither one of us is really talked a lot about or discussed, other than when we bring Dean on the show. So it's I think that'll bring a new perspective. Plus being in the UK, so that's another, even the time shift difference, all that kind of stuff brings another element. So I think he's going to be fantastic. That's what I think, and I think you and him are going to have some great chemistry on the show. So
yeah, I love Dean.
yeah.
I've known him now for a few years. I don't know how much is it coffee he drinks. I don't know if it's just straight. He wakes up with a bowl of cereal and just energy drinks mixed into. I don't know where this guy gets his energy from, but he'll definitely bring a different chemistry. And again, same thing as day one, working with you, Tracy, where we don't know where the podcast goes, right? It kind of just develops its own legs and creates its own personality, and I think that happens with Dean. But we have super excited to bring Dean in. So on the next Pivot Podcast, he will be. We'll have him sitting here, and we'll go through his story. And I think that's important too. Is really what is his journey, right? So like we mentioned before, you don't know somebody's struggles that until you talk about them, right? You don't know where somebody's been. A lot of times you see somebody winning the Olympics, right? And they're like, oh, I got the gold medal, I get the silver, I get this. Great. Oh my, respect that person so much. They just won the Olympics. But you rarely see, even if they have a Netflix documentary, you still don't really fully understand, because you're not in that person's shoes until you just can't be. Like everything that led to that moment had some kind of prior move before it. So just in his aspect of his life and what really got him even interested in the markets in the first place, there's going to be a whole lot there as far as really, I don't know if anyone can understand Dean. I mean, he's going to yell at me when he hears this, but you can't understand Dean. He's his own creature. But if we could at least get to 10% of what makes Dean tick, I think we're all going to be better traders for it. So I think definitely looking forward, and it would be it's going to be an interesting experience. I'm highly
Yeah.
looking forward to working with Dean on that.
Yeah. No, for sure. No, I think he's going to be excellent. Like I said, I'm looking forward to listening to the episodes afterwards and hearing the dynamics change because I think it's going to be very, very beneficial. Now, I'm just curious, what's in store for you over the next, 6 months, 3 months, whatever it might be? What goals have you got on the table right now?
Good question. Very good question. Yeah, for me, in terms of what I would like, at least just to narrow it down in terms of the Pivot Podcast, my goal going forward is that we could bring a different energy to the Pivot Podcast, right? My goal is that we can continue at least to provide new content that will help either inspire a new trader, give them that one, like you said, every episode I've done with you, same thing. I would say probably more than one golden nugget, but even just that one golden nugget could help drastically that in ways that you don't really understand. And I think having that the different element for me, I think that's key to get me to the goal as to where I want the Pivot Podcast to go. Because it's just again, it's just a different take, different point of view that I think everybody in the Pivot Podcasts nation can learn something from.
Mhm.
And then that's for me for the podcast. Otherwise, the goals for me is just to realistically to stay consistent.
Mhm.
As boring as that is, and as boring as staying consistent could sound to somebody, I'm a huge believer in the long term. I have a consistency is how to build that, but it's consistency with a goal in mind, right?
Mhm.
Which could be 5, 10, 20 years down the road. But even when it comes to day trading, consistency and continue to grow on what I did the day before. And
Mhm.
if I could wake up every single day and just really, really take a breath and just say, how could I be consistent today? What is something that could continue the path that I'm already laying out? I think for me that's huge. In terms of the markets themselves, I don't know where this beast goes. This is just an untamed market. Um, but I think this market, and this is what I want to for right now be consistent toward. I want to be able to capitalize on the opportunities, which I think will be numerous coming from the next few markets. Back in 2008 during the housing crash, I was younger, right? So I was not able to capitalize.
Yeah.
From the book of what's it called, The Richest Man in Babylon,
Mhm.
right? Opportunities come to those who seek it and are ready. The 2008, because I didn't have a house in 2008, I didn't have anything like that. I was younger. I was starting out in my career, and for me, I wasn't. I could see some opportunities because again, yeah, everybody else's house is down, but that's a great time to buy, and I knew that, and there was just no way to make it work. Um, this time, my entire goal of being consistent is to be ready for the opportunity when it finds it, and I think that opportunity comes with number one looking, but people are like, well, how do I know this is the opportunity? How it will smack you in the face, right? If you're looking at something like this is incredible. Yeah, I have time to pick up some shares of this or a new house or real estate. So my goal for right now, I don't know how the housing market turns out in a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I don't know how the stock market turns out a year from now, 5 years, 10 years from now. But what I do know is historically, there's always been opportunities. I think every day presents itself with a new opportunity in the markets. And if we do hit anywhere close to recession that some people say, even if we hit less than that, I think there's so many more opportunities in the market, whether it's the stock market or the real estate market somewhere. And I'm just being consistent to be ready.
Yep. Yep. Well, my prediction of the markets,
I do.
I'm pretty sure that the markets are going to go up, down, or sideways. So be ready.
Be ready for that. Yeah.
Have a plan. Yep.
If we
Know
can
what
figure
you're
out
going to
what
do if
day.
it goes another. Exactly. Know what it's going to do in any direction. Yep.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Now,
that's why it just builds slowly over time for me.
exactly. Now, I want to just turn my attention to the audience again for 1 second. And I just want to thank everybody for, first of all, supporting us in the last 2 years. We wouldn't have continued doing this if we weren't getting the views, if we weren't getting the interaction with the audience. So please, if you want us to keep going, keep that coming, keep those views going, share this. Please go in and add some comments, like not necessarily comments, but actually on the actual podcast show. We could definitely utilize some comments there, some feedback. That would be great, as well as in our YouTube channel. But I just want to thank each and every one of you for just reaching out, telling us how you feel, for listening and supporting us. It has been an absolute pleasure to serve you, and I wish you all the best in the future. And you are in great hands with Dan and Dean moving forward. So there's that. Now, Dan, I want to turn to you now, and I just want to say thank you so much for coming out every week, joining me every week, putting in the time and the effort to come up with the content, and just working with me and learning how to interact with me and all of that kind of stuff. It's been a great privilege and an honor to be working with you. And I'm blessed that I know you better now than I did before. And I feel like you and I have developed a relationship that I don't have with a lot of other individuals with real life trading. So I want to thank you for that, and I appreciate it, and I wish you all the best. I hope we stay in
Likewise.
contact.
Absolutely. Likewise. And it's not, obviously, it's not the end of the road.
Yep.
You're more than welcome to come back anytime. Dean, cover your ears at this point, Dean. Anytime you want to come back, just tell me. Dean's gone. He's gone. Don't even no second thought. Just kidding. No,
That's funny.
But I do honestly, I cherish the conversations that we've had. It's been incredible.
Yeah.
And I with this podcast would not be running for 2 years every single week if it wasn't for you. So,
well, thank you. And
Takes us
both.
Not only that, Tracy, but unfortunately, it is that time. We got to cut it. But there's only one person that can do the outro. That's you today. You got to give the outro today.
Well, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you once again to each and every one of you for listening to the Pivot Podcast. Please hit that comment, hit that like, throw some comments in the comment below. Everything will be put in the links in the description as well, or all the links will be put in the description below. And we will see you, well, Dean and Dan will see you in the next week's Pivot Podcast. Thanks again.